Hello, and welcome to another episode of Reading Reddit with Amber. Today I have another batch of outrageous stories for you from r/Am I the Jerk. Our first story is, Am I the Jerk for explaining periods to my brother? I'm a 15-year-old female, and I have two brothers, a 17-year-old male and a 12-year-old male. This happened a few days ago, but I really need a second opinion. I share a bathroom with my brothers, and the other day I accidentally left a box of tampons on the counter instead of putting them away. My younger brother asked me what they were, and I said they were tampons. Cue him being very confused, and my older brother and I realizing that he knows nothing about any of this stuff. We decided to give him a basic rundown of the female reproductive system, and he seemed okay with it. That night, he mentioned to our parents that we told him about periods, and they got pretty upset. My mom said that he's way too young to be knowing about this and that it was inappropriate for us to be telling him. As it turns out, they're planning on opting him out of sex ed at his school in the spring because he's, in their opinion, too young. I can kind of see where they're coming from. He is their kid after all, and I definitely could have just said that tampons were feminine products. However, this is something he would have to learn at some point, and that wasn't going to happen if they didn't let him go to sex ed. I'm not really sure. Did we seriously overstep a boundary here? Am I the jerk? And then there's an edit. To answer some questions, my older brother and I did mandatory sex ed in 5th grade, but my younger brother's class was canceled due to the state of the world. We also both did it again in 8th grade. I have no idea why my parents would only opt him out, but it's probably a youngest child thing. Not the jerk. 12 years old is old enough to know about periods and the basics of reproductive anatomy, especially since there are probably kids in his class who have already gotten their first period. My school taught that stuff in 5th grade, which I think is pretty common. Periods are a normal and natural part of life for about half of the population. Treating them like they're something he needs to be sheltered from creates unnecessary shame and stigma. Our next story is, Am I the jerk for refusing to crochet something for my brother's future baby after years of teasing? I'm a 24-year-old male, and I have never been like the other men in my family. I'm introverted, artistic, and would rather cosplay than play sports. At age 14, my great-grandmother moved in with us, and she taught me how to crochet. I loved it, but my brothers, Jim, 27-year-old male, and Tim, 27-year-old male, used to tease me constantly for it when she wasn't around, and whenever I would complain, my dad told me that life's full of people that are going to call me names and that I need to toughen up. I honestly think he was just disappointed that I wasn't an extroverted jock like him and his other sons, felt like he could just pressure me into being more like him. When my great-grandmother died, she didn't have much, but she specifically left me her crochet hooks, and I was very touched. She also left my cousin unfinished baby socks that she was crocheting for my cousin's baby, and I could tell my cousin was disappointed. We kind of had this tradition of our great-grandmother making things for the coming babies. I offered to finish what our great-grandmother started using her hooks, and my cousin was thrilled about the gesture. After that, I kind of inherited the position of crocheting things for any new babies in the family, and I rather enjoyed it because I felt as if I was carrying on a legacy. Although, it did nothing to stop my immediate family from making jokes and calling me names. Despite the constant attacks against my sexuality, Jim, ironically, came out as gay and has since apologized for his past treatment of me, so we're on good terms, but Tim is still a jerk to me. When I went to college, I went low contact with Tim and my father, and would just tolerate them at family events. Last week, Tim announced that he and his girlfriend, Tina, who's a 24-year-old female, were engaged and expecting their first child over social media, and everyone was thrilled. During a Zoom meeting with the family, Tina said she would love a matching blanket, little hat, and shoes for the baby from me, and I asked her to send me a copy of her registry for baby clothes. Tim laughed and said everyone knows that it's tradition that I make the items. I told him flat out that he doesn't get to make fun of my skills as a crocheter and then expect free labor from me. My dad said I was being rude and needed to apologize. I countered that if Tim was hurt by my refusal to crochet for him, then he should just toughen up and get over it, and then left the call. Since then, I've been getting text messages from my parents and Tim saying that I'm being petty and a jerk to Tina and the baby, but I haven't responded. Am I the jerk for refusing to crochet something for my brother's baby after years of teasing? And then there's a couple of updates, but the last one is the one I think is pertinent to the story. For more information, the last time my dad and Tim made fun of / harassed me for crocheting something was last year at Christmas. It's not like they stopped teasing me, calling me rude names, or questioning my manhood when I went to college. I'm going to say that OP's not the jerk. Crocheting takes time, energy, and money, and OP has every right to refuse to make projects for someone who has treated him poorly. It doesn't even sound like Tim has shown any remorse for the way he's treated OP over the years, and the two barely communicate with one another, so why should OP go out of his way for him? Being blood-related does not entitle you to someone else's labor. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not letting my daughter watch shows with me after she got her nose pierced without my permission, and an ugly one at that? My daughter is 17, and she and I used to be very close. On weekends, we would stay up late at night and watch whatever random B-rated horror movies we could find on Netflix. But now, I can't even look at her. Recently, she asked her father for permission to get a nose ring. I don't know what in the heaven's name he was thinking to actually say yes. I've been adamant about nose rings. We don't do them. If you want to get them when you're 18 and on your own, fine, but not while you're under my roof. The point is, I was completely blindsided. She came home like, "Mom, guess what?" and showed me the septum ring, and I nearly fainted. It's not even one of those cute little button ones that maybe I could have tolerated. It looks like one of those rings you put in the nose of a bull. I was furious, and I asked her, why? Why would you do that to your beautiful nose? And without my permission? And what kind of stupid ring is that? If anything, why not a cute little nose stud? And then I yelled at my husband for letting her get it, and he said that she was going to get it anyway, so he just wanted to be there to make sure that she was okay. And I said, without my permission though? And he was quiet, but later he apologized. That was on Friday. Things have been pretty tense since then. I've calmed down considerably, but every time I think of how they just went behind my back like that, I get riled up again. Throughout the day, I find myself just peeking at her nose ring. Today I was going through Netflix looking for a movie to watch, and my daughter came over and quietly sat beside me. I found a B movie and I put it on, and we were watching it silently for a moment, but then I could see her nose ring in the TV reflection, and I stood up and said, "I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not going to watch this movie with that ridiculous nose ring showing in the reflection." And I walked off to watch TV in my bedroom. I fell asleep, but my 14 and 15-year-old daughters woke me up and told me they could hear their sister crying. Her door was locked, and she screamed at me to leave her alone, so I said, "Oh, don't worry, I will. But see the way you feel right now? That's how I felt when you didn't listen to me and went behind my back." Obviously, I still love my daughter, but I don't like what she did. Or the way she just went behind my back and did what she wanted, like what I said as her mother didn't even matter. And she still hasn't apologized either. I'm going to say that OP is being a huge jerk here. Her daughter is 17, almost a legal adult, and she made a minor aesthetic choice about her own body. OP throws a tantrum and berates her daughter for making this choice. Daughter tries to extend an olive branch, and OP turns her down, and then when the daughter is crying because her mom dismissed her, OP has the nerve to berate her some more. That sounds like jerk behavior to me. Now, I've been in the daughter's position, essentially. I have a nose ring, the button kind. I got my nose pierced when I was 12, with my mom's permission. I didn't think it was a big deal. I mean, it was a tiny little gem on the side of my nose. But my dad got upset when I came home with a nose ring and would not talk to me for like 2 days. And I think the only reason why he talked to me after that was because it was Christmas. And let me tell you, it hurts to have a parent ignore you for doing something so small and inconsequential. It made me feel unloved in that moment. OP, your daughter is so much more than her nose ring. if you can't look past this one little choice she made that in no way directly affects you, then you may end up damaging your relationship beyond repair. Our next story is, am I the jerk for moving to avoid babysitting for my parents, which prompted my siblings to do the same? I'm a 22-year-old male, the oldest brother of 9 siblings. I have 5 younger brothers and 3 sisters. My sister is 20 and my brother is 19. Youngest is 4 years old, and my other siblings' ages range from 16 years to 7 years. My parents would have had way more kids, but my mom suffered from several miscarriages. Pretty much since I was 6, I had to take care of all of my siblings. I could never go out because my parents were working and nobody could take care of my siblings. I love my siblings, but I hated never having freedom. It used to annoy me like crazy that they would just pop one kid after another. Our house wasn't that big, so everyone shared rooms, never had any private space. Parents made good money, but because of so many kids, they struggled financially. Years later, I found out that the reason why they had so many kids was because they weren't using any protection at all. My mom said that they didn't believe in using protection, and that any kids they had were because of God's will. If they didn't get pregnant, that was fine. If they did, it was because that was God's plan. I was so mad, since I was the one also stuck taking care of all of these kids because they're too stubborn to use protection since it's against their beliefs. When my mom got pregnant again with my youngest sibling, I waited till my 18th birthday and moved out that day. Made sure to move far enough away, 1 hour, so that I had that excuse. When my sis turned 18, she begged me to let her live with me, and I said yeah. My bro did too eventually. My sister has already moved out, but he's still there with me while we continue our college classes. They saw that I limited contact with my parents to avoid getting stuck babysitting, so they wanted out too. Now my younger bro, who's 16, is spending more time at my place because he hates it at home. My parents are mad at me for dipping out on them since that's made my other siblings not want to be responsible for the younger ones either. My dad told me they're hurt, I turned my back on my family and have made my siblings do the same. 'Cause I'm the older one, so I have the most influence on them, and ever since I left, they followed with the same attitude. A part of me does feel bad that they're having a hard time, but at the same time, I feel they brought it on themselves, just thinking they can have however many kids and expecting us all to just live with their actions. Just wondering if I'm the jerk for how this all happened. Not the jerk. Opie's parents can have as many kids as they like, but that doesn't mean they can expect their adult children to stay close to home and serve as free babysitters. Part of having a large family is being responsible for that family. If the parents don't like taking care of that many kids, they have no one to blame but themselves. Our final story is, am I the jerk for going off on my sister-in-law because of the way she talks about her possibly autistic daughter? I've been debating on making this post for a while, but the dust has settled and everyone is acting like I'm the jerk, so honestly, a bit of a validation post. My sister-in-law has 2 children, a girl that's 18 months and a boy that's 6 months. This post is in regards to the girl. She doesn't speak. At all. She babbles, but mostly makes pterodactyl noises to communicate. Recently, we were all planning Thanksgiving, and my niece was running around in the background. Side note, her nickname is Baby Bird because she flaps her hands like little wings while she's running and playing. Somebody made a comment I didn't quite catch, but it was about something my niece was doing, and my sister-in-law shrugged and passively said, "Well, she might be autistic." This was the first time that had ever been mentioned, and of course we all had questions. Sister-in-law said when she took the baby for her checkup, the pediatrician said she was showing signs of what may be autism. I asked her how she felt and if she was okay, and she laughed and said, "It's a non-issue. We always knew she was a bit thrown off, we just have a name for it now." Everyone laughed and I asked her what she meant by that. She described all of the autistic tendencies, her words not mine, and said she didn't care. She wouldn't treat her or love her any differently. I told her that was a horrible way to talk about her daughter. Everyone got quiet and just stared at me, and my husband was giving me a look like he wished a hole in the earth would swallow me. But I kept on. I told her she can't treat her the same way, because she'll have special needs and won't function the same as the other kids. I told her she's not thrown off, she's autistic. My sister-in-law stared at me for a moment and then said, "Thanks for that, Melanie Barnett," which, WTF even is that, and then left. My mother-in-law went off on me, my other sister-in-law told me I was doing too much, and my husband just looked at me like I'm a disappointment and barely speaks to me. WTF. How am I the jerk? So Reddit soothed me. Am I the jerk? There will be no soothing here. OP is being a jerk, but to see why, we're going to need to talk a little bit about what autism is. There's a saying, if you know one autistic person, you know one autistic person. And basically what this phrase is getting at is that autism manifests differently in different people. We like to talk about autism as a linear spectrum, but a better metaphor I've heard from You Samdy Sam, an autistic YouTuber who I definitely recommend checking out if you want to know more about autism, is that autism is like a DJ's table. There are all these different knobs, and some may be turned way down, while others may be turned all the way up, and some may be in between. There are a number of traits associated with autism, but not every autistic person exhibits all of them or exhibits them to the same degree. For example, some autistic people are highly sensitive to loud or high-pitched noises, while others may not be. There is no one way to raise an autistic child because autistic children are not a monolith. To assume, then, that a child with autism will need to be raised in X way because they're potentially autistic shows a fundamental misunderstanding of how autism works. What kind of assistance an autistic person will need depends on what autistic traits they have and to what extent. This child is 18 months, she is exhibiting some autistic traits, but her pediatrician has not diagnosed her yet. It's hard to say at this stage what kind of accommodations she may need, if any, so it doesn't make sense to treat her differently unless or until she demonstrates a need for an accommodation. I don't want to read too much into OP's words, but it also seems like she might be suggesting that the daughter needs to be treated differently beyond necessary accommodations, which is a problem if that's what she's getting at. It sounds like the sister-in-law is well equipped to manage the daughter's care with the help of the pediatrician. She doesn't need OP shouting unsolicited and frankly unhelpful advice at her. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving it a like or letting me know in the comments. I post new videos twice a week, funny or outrageous ones on Wednesdays and spooky ones on Sundays. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.